What is up, guys? It's the Sound Alchemist, and once again I am here with
Gershwan.
And today we're back to answer more questions from you guys in this episode that we like to call For the Greater War.
This is a video series where we answer the questions left by you, the viewer. If you have a question for us, comment down below. Put question in front of your question because we get to those questions first. And that is what San Orange did. He asks, if Astronomicon attracts Tyranids, then why doesn't the Eye of Terror attract them even more? That's a good question, because one of the theories as to why the Tyranids are in the galaxy is because they are attracted to the Emperor's godly light, aka the Astronomicon. It is the same light that allows navigators to navigate through the warp currents. Yeah. It's basically just like a little lighthouse. It's just like, hey, this is north. And then, and if they're attracted to that, then why wouldn't they be attracted to the fact that there's a giant hole just emitting warp energy?
Or currently a major gash ripping the galaxy in half of warp energy.
And the answer could lie in the fact that neither of those two are really lighthouses. Like, it must be that if you evolved outside of the warp, you're not going to be able to tell the differences between, like, the Sectris Maledictum and the Eye of Terror. Whereas, like, if you evolved outside of the warp, you could tell the difference between the Astronomicon and all of the other warp gates, which is what's happening.
Yeah. Think of the lighthouse is really good because it guides people to where they have to go in the like navigators, but at the same time, what's attracted to light? Bugs. What are Tyranids? Bugs. So it's like, yeah, they're gonna go into this basically light source and they're just gonna flock around it.
Yeah, and it's kind of the same thing as if it's like saying once a light source to us that evolved that, and then the other one is like a sound source that the Tyranids might have not evolved to it for whatever reason.
However, there are that one hive fleet. I always forget what it's called. Is it Gorgon?
No, I think it's
Krona.
No, it's not Cronus, or I can't remember anymore.
Because there's a hive fleet that specifically fights against like chaos demons and warp stuff.
But I think that came about from just fighting them, like coming in contact with them.
Right.
Yeah. So it's not like that's attracting them to the galaxy.
But why do you think it's attracting like them to the Emperor? Like, is it because of their need to feed, and they're like, oh, look at all this energy, all this power. Like, if we eat that, like, we'll be good.
Yeah, I think that's what happens to insects, right? They look at the light and they think of it as the sun, and they have like a natural instinct to like gravitate towards the sun, or like to navigate because of the sun. And then that's when they get zapped from those zapper machines. It could be the same thing with the Tyranids. Like, they just see a little zapping, flickering thing off in the distance, and they're just attracted to it. Not because they want to eat it, but just because they're attracted to it. That is what they were evolved to do. Which would kind of then, like, if they are an artificial, or if they were created by the old ones, which is a theory, then it really wouldn't make sense for them to go to the Astronomicon. Yeah, they'd just go to or the galaxy, Milky Way galaxy in general. But yeah.
This next question is by Justice777. What's the best way to kill Space Marines? Like, on the tabletop or in the lore?
We could do both.
All right. So on the tabletop, you want to hit them with high strength and decent AP. Because the higher the strength, the easier it is to wound. And if you hit them with like AP -2 weapons, then that removes their save. Or makes it worse.
Yeah, what I've realized is that, especially with Primaris Marines, weapons that you would use for tanks back in the day work really well for... or moderate weapons that you could use for tanks, you work really well for Primaris. Because at the same time, you don't want to inflict like 6 wounds on a model that has 2.
Yeah.
But yeah. And then lore-wise.
Lore-wise, it's very difficult. These guys are like the pinnacle of like what humanity can do. And it's very hard to fight because when you look at the actual tabletop, it doesn't really translate very well to how they are in the lore. Because in the lore, a squad of like 5 Space Marines can potentially take out a whole like orc. I'm not gonna say a whole orc wa, but like a decently sized orc invasion.
For sure, they could kill an entire tribe.
Yeah.
Which is funny. It's goofy.
Because there are some stories where a single Space Marine is left to his own, like they don't give him any supplies or anything, just with his bolter and his combat knife. And he basically cleared almost a whole world of, like, feral orcs.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing they could do to him. Like, his armor was so impervious to, like, their sticks and stuff.
Yeah, their sticks. Yeah. So I think, like, when it comes to a Space Marine in the lore, the way you kill him is you just have, like, a really badass threat. So whether that be a knob, because the knobs, I just recently created a 40 facts on Stormclaw. Yeah, Stormclaw. And it's basically the knobs killing all of those space wolves. Or like when you have the Tyranids, it's like the hive, what is it called?
The
Warriors?
Tyrant? Oh, hive tyrants.
Yeah, those guys. So like big, beefy, like creatures or villains kill Space Marines.
Right. You also see a lot of this happen in, like, the Dawn of War trailers. You'll have, like, banshees taking them out. I'm trying to think.
But yeah, or like even orcs.
Yeah, orcs can do it too.
There was a tank buster that took the dreadnought out. But it's never just like a regular old warrior.
Yeah.
It seems like within the lore, it's always like if you have a base level warrior of any race and a base level warrior of the Space Marines, the Space Marine's going to beat the other one.
It's like you need a whole different league to take them on.
Yeah. So yeah. This next question comes from Mock Motion 07. Most Mexican Imperial Guard army? That's a good question.
Los Tigres del Norte.
Probably, yeah. Next question.
This one's by Dan Fab. Would you guys collect an army if it was called the Misters of Battle? It's just Imperial Guard.
The Misters of Battle?
No, like Sisters of Battle, but they're men.
I thought he was like a homebrew Space Marine chapter or something. I just thought that's a goofy title. Are you trying to imply that, like, whoever collects Sisters of Battle is just as goofy? Because if that's the case, maybe.
Yeah, when I think Misters of Battle, I think of, like, butlers.
Yep, a bunch of
Alfreds.
There you go. Which is a badass character.
He beat Bruce in a few comics.
Beat. Nice.
This isn't a question, but it's something that I want to talk about, by Ben Williams. Isn't phobia when basically all the Xenos are genuinely trying to wipe you out, so it's legit? So he's talking about xenophobia. So no, not all alien races are out to kill humanity. Right. There are some that are so primitive, like they don't even know humanity exists, so why would they? And there's also some that are just peaceful. Yep. Like not everything out there is out to get you.
Right. Even some Eldar. I would argue that like some Eldar craft worlds they're not out to kill humanity.
Right. Whether it's because of their hubris, where they think they're so far above humanity that it's like, I'm not even going to bother to touch them or even think about them, to where like they know, like, hey, our technology is way better. We can wipe them out whenever. Right. So yeah, xenophobia is mostly just like a fear of the unknown that has been attached to things that humanity isn't accustomed to. Yeah. Which is what it is nowadays. Yep. Yeah. People are scared of the unknown. They're scared of what they don't understand. So,
like the vaccine.
Yeah. They take away the humanity from it and they demonize it, and that makes it easier and okay for them to hate it. Yep. And that's where xenophobia stems from.
This next question comes from and also like xenophobia is weaponized.
Oh yeah.
And like that's the whole point of the Imperium. Like it's easier to say like the orcs are the villains, the Eldar are the villains, the whatever race is the villains, because then that unifies the planet under one like umbrella of them killing or besting or being more successful than that Xenos, which is what we see constantly with politics.
All the time.
You always point out like one person. I was watching or listening to a podcast with Mark Norman and some other dude, and they were talking about like how back in the day, Frank Sinatra's dad, he was Italian, and he had to pretend he was Irish because of the stigma or the xenophobia behind Italians. So I just thought that's kind of weird. Like nowadays, you don't really think of anything with Italians. Like it's Italian. I'm Italian. It's like okay, cool. But like back then, they were used as a prop to again
facilitate the whole us versus them.
Yeah. But yeah, next question.
Oh, this one's by Heirs of Swan. What's the Exterminatus variant for each faction? And when would they think to even use it? So when it comes to humanity, they have, what are those called?
Virus bombs.
Virus bombings, also cyclonic torpedoes, I believe.
Yeah.
Virus bombs is literally exactly what it sounds. They send out a virus that wipes out all life. There are factions and like races that have survived that by going underground and coming out when it's over.
Yep.
With the cyclonic torpedoes, I think they turn all oxygen into fire. So again, just go into bunkers or something like that. When it comes to the Tyranids, they themselves are pretty much the Exterminatus.
Yeah.
They just send in their units and they just eat all life.
Yeah, because they don't really have anything that's going to wipe out biomass, because that's their whole point. They're trying to consume that biomass.
Mm-hmm.
With the orcs, they'll send torpedoes down, but it's kind of the same thing as the Tyranids. They want to get stuck in. They want to like feel the thrill of jamming a choppa down someone's head. Eldar, I haven't heard of Exterminatus for the Eldar.
Mm-mm. I'm pretty sure they have some type of like bomb or weapon.
And then
the Tau.
Yeah.
I haven't heard anything really Exterminatus level.
The Necrons.
Oh, they've got freaking
a Death Star.
Yeah, Death Stars that take out planets, star systems.
What is it called again?
The Celestial Orrery, I believe.
Yeah. And Mini Wargaming did a narrative campaign once with that whole concept of like they were trying to stop the Necrons from obtaining or awakening this orrery or whatever weapon it was.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Chaos, they have Blackstone Fortresses, which I guess that's also a Necron thing too.
Yeah.
Catan can also wipe out planets. What else?
That's it really, because it's like Dark Eldar and they're all like sub factions of each one. Yeah. But yeah.
Yeah, and they only bring it out like when they definitely need to use it.
Yeah, I think the Imperium is the only one that really likes is what is it called? Trigger
happy?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, this guy looked at me funny. Push the button.
Exterminatus with their head. This next question comes from the big one. In my hood, my mom is known as a notorious hoe. What should I do? You should try to beat her record, and you should become a hoe.
It's like following in the footsteps of greatness.
Because think about it, whenever you look at like the Imperium, and like the Emperor is basically the image of perfection, and all High Lords are trying to attain his level of diplomacy. All Space Marines are trying to attain his level of supremacy on the battlefield, and all Sisters of Battle are trying to sleep with him. So the Brides of the Emperor.
Mm-hmm.
My phone died. Next question.
I lost it. Oh, here it is. John Moore. Can you guys imagine La Virgen de Guadalupe on a dreadnought?
Yes.
Yeah. And like instead of like having like capes, it's like one of those cobijas with like tigers on it.
Oh yeah, the San Marcos one.
Yeah.
That'd be dope.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody should kit bash that. Please do that. Next question.
Just some Bigfoot with internet access. At full strength, how well do you think the 10th First and Only would do in a fight with the Sisters of Battle on foot with no vehicles, just infantry and their equipment?
Not very good. I think the 10th First and Only has plot armor.
Yeah, because I mean they got their own book series. So
yeah.
Obviously, they're not just gonna kill them off right away.
Yep.
But even with plot armor, do you think it'll be a difficult fight? Like let's say
you said?
Like let's say you strip away the plot armor.
Okay.
And I don't know, because it's hard, because like you have those feats to compare them to, but at the same time those feats are there because of the plot armor.
I would say no. It wouldn't be a tough fight for the Sisters of Battle, just because the Sisters of Battle are better equipped, and the whole thing of the 10th First and Only was the fact that they were a regiment that was organized, sent out by the Adeptus Administratum. Got messed up in the war, but they had to restructure everything, and then they fought so well, and because they're basically veterans, they've fought in so many battles with each other, they're good. But that still doesn't beat Sisters of Battle, who have, since birth, grew up together.
Right.
And fought together. So.
And they have the power of the Emperor on their side. With like their holy like miracles. Rosariuses.
Yes. It wasn't a miracle, it was the Rosarius.
Nicholas Jimenez. Can Wolfen fall to chaos? I'm thinking of a Space Wolf's Primaris Successor chapter that hunts down the Wolfen. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that'd be cool, yeah.
Yeah, I could see that happening definitely, since they're already like mutating. Maybe the Canis Helix mutation also messes with their like inhibitions, and they just go all out and kind of devote themselves to Khorne and just become bloodthirsty werewolves.
Yep. Yeah, I could see that happening. That'd be kind of cool.
So then now the Space Wolves essentially become like witch hunters. Or you take an Inquisitor that is a witch hunter to hunt them down.
Yeah. Next question.
This one's by Heron Royer. An orc makes a warbike from looted Necron body parts. What stops the reanimation protocol from trying to reanimate the broken Necron?
It's probably already destroyed the Necron tomb world that is sending out the messages.
The protocols.
Yeah, because you got to think of it just like any nanotechnology. Like there's a center hub. Either it's within the actual nanoscarab, but then that would just tell it to interact with the rest of them, which the orc has already cracked the code to. Or it's like at a center point, which would be the tomb world, and the tomb world's already been destroyed.
Yeah, because I could just imagine the orc riding it, and then it's like he starts to gain sentience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then another thing too about like nanoscarabs and like their formation, there are corpses of Necrons. So that means that even though the nanoscarabs are still like it's made out of necrodermis, which is basically nanoscarabs, they don't form any. They don't change or anything. There must be like a center energy hub within the body of the Necron.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because if that was the case, the Necrons would essentially never die.
Right.
Because no matter how beat up they got, they would always try to reanimate.
Yeah.
This one's by Cody Morris. How big of a help would it be if the plasma gun replaced the last gun or bolters, and if they were just as reliable and easy to use and manufacture?
That'd be really good because it's a stronger strength.
Yeah, it'll punch through more. There's already a bunch of like memes and stuff where like last guns are just flashlights, like they don't really do anything.
Yeah.
So with that being said, plasma guns are really good, and the rate of fire won't be as great as like the other weapons.
That's true.
But they can still do more damage.
Yeah. You'd still also get a lot of harm if it's plasma.
Yeah.
But you would be as good as the Tau.
Essentially, yes.
Yeah, you would perfect it.
Mm-hmm.
So you just play Tau. Because isn't Tau toughness 3, strength 3?
I believe so, yeah.
For a fire warrior?
Yep.
And that's what a regular Imperial Guardsman is?
Mm-hmm.
Pobrecitos.
Edward Sherwood. What caused the Necrons to go into hibernation? It seems like they were doing better than mankind, dealing with the warp and whatnot.
Enslaver plague.
Yeah, those little jellyfish mind suckers that live in the warp decided we ain't living in the warp.
We coming out.
Yeah, and they came out in droves, and they basically attached to every sentient thing, and
they had their own little parade. Pride. They had pride in themselves.
And yeah, it was like coronavirus, but on a bigger scale.
Yep. And then the other thing you have to remember is that because they are warp entities and Necrons are weak against the warp, and so is the Catan, it's one of those situations where it's like, well, this is like this is another war that we're going to send our dynasties into that's going to hurt them a lot because of that. Like we don't really know how many of them there are. So might as well just sleep, let them consume the psychically powerful warrior races, and then later on we can awaken and they'll be gone.
Right.
Because they ate their own
food source.
Right.
Yeah. So I actually talked about it a little bit in my 13 Days of Halloween series. So check that out. I think I call it like 40 Facts on Plagues. So yeah.
Yeah. And those were the questions for today. If you guys have more questions for us, please comment down below. Thank you guys so much for listening. And if we didn't get to your question, just ask again.
That's right. As always, I'm the Sound Alchemist.
Crush one.
And we are Fuera.
Oh, I did the